Welcome to the Change Within podcast. This is Gerard Uselli here. We are on episode 35, and the change just keeps on continuing to a level of trajectory that reaches everyone's perspectives. That is the goal, and that is the motto right there. Our next guest is somebody who is celestial in how he brings himself to a higher power in the film industry and also a new venture within his podcast. Get ready, world, for Titus Peoples. Titus,
Thank
how
you.
are you
Thank you.
today?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for having me on your show, man. This is an honor.
Absolutely. So, as I love to ask anybody this for the first question, what was your childhood like growing up?
Well, my childhood was pretty cool for the it was pretty cool. It was pretty chill. Like, got into some trouble as a kid, like you do stupid things as a teen, you know what I mean? Like to be influenced by like street culture and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was pretty solid.
No, and definitely on that front, because as anyone rebels, there's also something to learn from it that way. What was the first time, maybe like when you've done something wrong? Have you ever had like a film or something that you worked on that kind of like reflected your actions and made it more of like a creative endeavor?
Yes, actually the cattle farmer was a great learning experience. It was my first film. So me and Matt Vincini, shout out to Matt Vincini, who wrote and directed the project. I just executive reduced it. But yeah, man, like it was something that we all had to take in and learn from.
Absolutely. And I feel like it's for any director and getting into that world, you do have to reflect a lot from your own experiences to ensure that you're proud of the product that you're putting out there.
Absolutely.
So, on a more general note, like how did filmmaking come into your life and when did you feel like you had talent in it?
Well, filmmaking came into my life, I would say like my 20s. In my 20s,
Yep.
um because even as a kid, I was always the storyteller. Like, out of all my older cousins and stuff, I'm like the least person that's into sports and stuff. So like I probably was the one that shot the hoop around for a couple of times, but then I probably end up in a dirt drawing in the sand somewhere. So
I gotcha.
art was always my thing. But I would say my 20s was when I really knew I could do the film thing. And about 25, I really figured out that screenwriting was the thing for me.
Well, screenwriting was probably your layup shot at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, for the hat that you're wearing as well, and as the film industry needs you to wear so many hats, what's one trait of filmmaking that pushes you to make fit as a business owner now?
Well, it's all about the way you think of things. And like you have to be sharp on your feet. Like you always
Of
have to
course.
constantly think like because like it's so much to do and it's so small of a time frame. Cause like when like you're working with actors and different people and stuff. So like one day I might be have to focus on the executive producing side, but then right there might be a problem with the script. So like I might have to jump into the script side of things. So yeah, it's all about your mind frame at that time.
Definitely. And kind of like in the script process for anything that you've worked on, what was like one thing that's been a project now that you feel like you had to do the most rewrites with?
Dating while 30.
That's interesting. What made that one become like the most with like your rewrites?
Cause I didn't know it was my story until I really started reading it. It was like, oh, this is me. Like, okay.
I
So
gotcha. So
so
like
one nah.
so like that reflection point, you were probably living life to a certain extent. And like from that point, you were probably just like, well, this kind of like makes things more relevant to what I'm going through. So it probably like inspired you to make more changes.
Absolutely. That's definitely what happened.
For sure. And kind of to go more into your business itself, what was the process like in starting Ultimate Class Entertainment?
Well, the process of starting Ultimate Class Entertainment, um, it was just the right thing to do. Like I said to myself at 28, um, I really wanted to jump into a new frontier of the film industry. So I just scrapped up some money, got a couple of good friends, and we just started Ultimate Class. Because like the funny thing about Ultimate Class is Ultimate Class started off as a crew, like almost 10 years ago. So
So you were probably like the 20s version of Pro Error.
basically, it's crazy.
That come up itself is just like so inspiring to see kids like that, 15, 16 years old, being visionaries by the time that they're like 50 in a traditional world.
Most definite. That's exactly how it happened. Because like Ultimate Class is full of graphic designers, other screenwriters, cameramen. So in the it's so funny how we came up with that name. Because when I was at the Art Institute, there was a security guard named Chris. He used to say, "Y'all in the class by yourself, y'all your own crew, y'all like the ultimate class. Like, man, like y'all not the skaters, y'all not the Pokemon kids, y'all are like your own group, the ultimate class." So then I was like, I like that name, Ultimate Class. So it sort of kind of just stuck.
I'm going to say this too as a point, because you brought up like the sense of class and teamwork. Now, as a substitute teacher myself, going through a career change to be in the special education field, I have noticed something: when you kind of have kids working with each other, they're more inspired to get things done.
Absolutely.
Like there
Teamwork
is
makes the
no
dream work.
doubt about that. But for sure though, so like kind of like meshing more in the hip hop world itself. So I was reading an article about you, and as you listen to amazing artists like Nas, Pusha T, and A$AP Rocky to alleviate your writer's block specifically, how does that bridge your creative process overall?
Because I'm able to take pieces of their songs and pieces of their life and like create stories for my next project.
I think that's a very fair way to put it too. Like from maybe like newer releases, I know Nas had an album out last year. What did you think of that? Like, did you feel like that was more of a recent climate of effect for how your creative process has been throughout the pandemic?
Yes, absolutely. Like this pandemic, I won't even lie. Like I got a lot of work done, but it was very, very stressful at the same time. But once I got the script process inward and started to push the content out of my brain and into the computer, it was smooth sailing after that.
Yeah, and kind of to a point on that, like when you are working in a pandemic and trying to be very goal centric towards that, you feel like the journey is kind of deprived in a lot of ways, and the journey makes something as the pursuit of how you like have your success in the future. So when that journey is just inward, as far as literally just being in your house, sometimes that's the biggest stress factor because you feel like you're not really getting your message out there in the world.
Absolutely.
And as to move forward a little bit throughout the pandemic for yourself, so in that process, you were trying to do The Cattle Farmer, which got off the ground, but what was it like to get that going, especially amid a pandemic?
Well, oddly enough, The Cattle Farmer was done shortly before the pandemic started. It
Oh,
was
okay.
the whole, so like it was the whole process of, all right, so we had a whole bunch of screenings booked. Like, you know what I mean? Like we won several awards. Like we were scheduled to be released in several different film houses, but the pandemic happened and just shut down everything.
Yeah, and definitely on that front, because I'll tell you a little personal story. I almost did my own film festival that I had a date for literally the day when everything closed down.
It
And
was
we had to
crazy. Like,
cancel 2 weeks before. You
yeah,
think to
so
yourself, like, and this was probably one of my better ideas that people were getting behind. Starting to sell tickets, it was going well, had to cancel it.
yeah.
It's just here's a follow-up on that. So maybe throughout the process as you're getting these awards, like have you ever had like the virtual film festival experience? Like what was that like for you if you were in any film festivals throughout the last year?
The virtual film festivals were cool, but me, I like to meet people. So I like
Yeah.
to meet people and shake people's hand and stuff like that, take pictures and stuff. So the virtual film festival thing was cool, but I like to go out and meet people. So I didn't really enjoy that aspect of it.
So, and to that point too, when you're doing something virtual, because when I was working in the nonprofit field last year, the breakout rooms in Zoom were one of those aspects that were like, okay, let's bridge the networking process with people on these breakout rooms. And then, of course, you have to deal with the streaming services that go in at the same time. So imagine managing like 7 or 8 breakout rooms going on, making sure that nothing goes wrong with like the connection for the internet. Like it's just absolutely insane.
Absolutely. Like is that aspect of it, I hated it. And I'm just glad things are slowly going back
For
to
sure.
the way they were.
Oh yeah, I could not agree more with you on that. So something that I took some notice to, especially with a point to your podcast, it's a great platform, I have to say. When
Thank you.
Discussion Strikes is a great piece of content for anyone who wants to check out, especially on the YouTube front. Got a lot of content on there. So, what are some topics in society that made you want to build this avenue of engagement?
Well, like I wanted to bridge the art world with everything that was happening in the world. See, because like my sister, she's a school teacher. So
Right.
like I wanted to talk to hip hop artists, but I also wanted to get their like thoughts on like how can we improve schools and stuff. So like I just want to have real conversations with people and show them that they're more than just their art, because they are people too that have thoughts.
Yeah, and maybe from like that perspective with some of the content from your episodes, what have been some really inspiring conversations that you've had on that platform? Any that come to
Um,
mind?
Not really. Oh, yes. So me and my friend Glenn McBride, who is also a very talented filmmaker, we spoke about the importance of Black filmmakers showing us and like who we are in our films.
I think that's a very good point because then there becomes the conflict of identity within filmmaking as well, and even the sense of even stigmatizing people for their roles, which is a shame because no matter what color you are, there needs to be that level of talent that speaks for the person of their heart more than anything.
Yes, very true, very true.
And ultimately, as you've done a lot like throughout this past year and have really made a name for yourself throughout your life, what is the biggest change that you're seeking for yourself at this point?
The biggest change is just to keep going, just to keep on inspiring people. Like me, I like to inspire people. So it's less or more, it's not so much about me, but it's more about what I can do for the other people. Like I like to show that there's more to where I'll come from than who we are. Like, you know, like if that made any sense. Because like I come from a place where we're like there's a lot of like gang culture and stuff like that. So like I just want to inspire the youth and show them, wow, if Titus can do what he's doing, I can do it too.
And as a final note, before we conclude, what's very cool about people within your caliber right now in the pursuit of your success, that I feel like that should be the most inspiring for kids to look to, because think of it this way: when you have the highest pillar of people in like the famous worlds, whether it's acting, whether it's music, the bar is set too high for them as far as like for them to feel inspired. I feel like the middle ground of people like you, I, or whoever may be, for them to be looking up to content creators within your like criteria and what you've done so far, those are the stepping stones that we really should be enforcing with our kids more often.
Very true, very true,
So, with
very
that
true.
being said, that concludes episode 35 for the Change of Him podcast. For those who haven't checked us out yet, please do so. Anchor, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Titus, thank you very much for joining me today,
No,
and have
thank you
a
so
great
much.
rest of your day.
You too, man.
Absolutely. Bye bye.
Bye. Peace.
You got it.